Chemical tests for bromide. Bromides are chemical compounds containing bromide ions. The bromide ion is formed when the bromine atom gains an electron. Example of bromide salts are sodium bromide, potassium bromide, and cesium bromide. Our aim here is to test for the presence of bromide ion in a given salt. Let's see the preliminary tests for bromide. The preliminary tests are dry heating test, potassium permanganate test, concentrated sulfuric acid test. Dry heating test. Materials required: original salt, starch paper, test tube holder, and Bunsen burner. Procedure: take a small quantity of the salt in a test tube and heat it over the Bunsen burner. Bromide undergoes thermal decomposition to form reddish-brown vapors of bromine. Place a starch paper over the mouth of the test tube. The liberated bromine imparts an orange-yellow color to the starch paper. Potassium permanganate test. Materials required: original salt, dilute sulfuric acid, potassium permanganate solution, test tube holder, droppers, and a Bunsen burner. Procedure: take a small amount of the salt in the test tube. To this, add a small volume of dilute sulfuric acid using a dropper. Boil the contents over the Bunsen burner to boil off any gas evolved. To this, add a little more dilute sulfuric acid. Now, add potassium permanganate solution drop-wise using another dropper. Potassium permanganate is decolorized due to the formation of colorless manganese sulfate. This, along with bromine gas, is liberated. Concentrated sulfuric acid test. Materials required: original salt, concentrated sulfuric acid, starch paper, test tube, and a dropper. Procedure: take a small amount of the salt in a test tube. To this, add a small volume of concentrated sulfuric acid using a dropper. Bromide reacts with concentrated sulfuric acid to evolve reddish-brown vapors of bromine. Place a starch paper over the mouth of the test tube. The liberated bromine imparts an orange-yellow color to the starch paper. Next, we look at the confirmatory tests of bromide. The confirmatory tests are silver nitrate test, manganese dioxide test, chlorine water test. Silver nitrate test. Materials required: aqueous solution of the salt, silver nitrate solution, dilute nitric acid, test tube holder, droppers, and a Bunsen burner. Procedure: take a portion of aqueous solution of the salt in the test tube. To acidify the aqueous solution, add some dilute nitric acid into it using a dropper. Boil the contents for some time over the Bunsen burner and cool. Now, add a few drops of silver nitrate solution using another dropper. Bromide reacts with silver nitrate to form light yellow precipitate of silver bromide. Manganese dioxide test. Materials required: original salt, manganese dioxide, concentrated sulfuric acid, test tube holder, spatula, dropper, and a Bunsen burner. Procedure: take a small quantity of the salt in a test tube. To this, add a small amount of manganese dioxide powder using a spatula. Now, add a few drops of concentrated sulfuric acid using a dropper. Heat the contents of the test tube over the Bunsen burner. Bromide reacts with manganese dioxide and concentrated sulfuric acid with the evolution of yellowish-brown gas of bromine. Chlorine water test. Materials required: aqueous solution of the salt, dilute hydrochloric acid, cyclohexane, chlorine water, test tube and droppers. Procedure: take a small portion of aqueous solution of the salt in the test tube. To acidify the aqueous solution, add a small volume of dilute hydrochloric acid using a dropper. Now, add a small volume of cyclohexane to the test tube using a dropper. Cyclohexane forms a separate layer above the aqueous solution. Then, add chlorine water to the test tube using another dropper. Shake the contents of the test tube vigorously and allow it to stand. The bromine liberated in this reaction, being soluble in cyclohexane, imparts an orange color to the cyclohexane layer. Precautions: handle the apparatus and chemicals carefully. Use droppers to take the reagents from the bottles. Wear lab coat and gloves while performing the experiment.